damage is gonna be done?
I asked her that, I said, are they gonna fix whatever they tear up? And they said, it's written in the project that whatever they dig up, they have to replace. Now, they're not going to repave the whole road, but they're gonna replace and hot top whatever they dig up. So that's, I did ask quite a few questions tonight, so.
I can't imagine that they would not be digging up enough of that road that the road itself would not have to be hot top.
Well, that's something that, we need to talk about. That's why I'm glad that they told us they're in their very initial stages of this. She sees it as something that's gonna take somewhere between 2 and 3 years to even get the funding.
But I believe the water line now goes out through the woods and everything else.
Well, it's all over the place,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
it
mean,
is?
if they're going to take that up and they're gonna have to put it back within somewhat of a, I would imagine, a straighter and more of a run.
Apparently it is they're the oldest lines, which is why they started. I asked, well, why aren't we doing the ones in town?
Cause that goes out by Pumpkins and up through the woods.
Yeah.
Who owns that infrastructure?
Well, our water company. When the Lubeck Water and Electric Company was sold in 1951, they sold it with the stipulation that they would pay the town $10,000 a year at $2,500 payment every quarter for 99 years. I went back and read all that.
And,
They at some point sold off the electric part of it. They still
right,
own
but
the water.
so the town doesn't own the infrastructure.
No.
The water company owns the
Yes.
infrastructure. But you're considering a grant to replace it.
I'm not.
A
We are.
letter
They
of
are.
support, a
They
letter
are.
of support.
Oh, letter of support.
And we should be collaborating with our other departments.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, the town needs to be in, well, because the water lines are under our road.
Yeah.
It's why we're being informed.
Just like any other utility or right away, same thing.
And they're regulated by the Public Utility Commission.
I believe, Michael, that was long before your and my time here, but it was Marilyn Ness who encouraged the expulsion of the old electric line that was from Whiting, the pond.
Power
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah.
Amazing. I've also learned tonight that when it comes to hats, one size does not fit all.
No kidding, no kidding. It's true, isn't it?
Yes, you did.
Night
Okay,
ball.
so, that's just informative, there's no vote on that. Okay, Dan, Economic Impact Subcommittee update. I don't know if you just want to read this all, or you want to summarize it?
I
Let
think
the
I
board
just
do it?
summarize.
I think
Yeah, I don't want to sit
summary
here
would
and
be good.
just
They
be
would be-
overly verbose. So the Economic Impact Subcommittee that we had formed, maybe 3 months ago, we had a total of 4 meetings. And the reason that we formed that is we had a lot of constituents at a loss after their most recent property tax bill, as was I. So the question becomes why and what can we do about it? So we formed this subcommittee, and actually it was great to have the volunteers show up. Carol was there, Debbie Holmes was there a few times, Craig Sadek, my mother-in-law Joanne Case was on the committee, as well as Dan Wagner. And again, we met a total of 4 times. We reviewed, kind of the data that we could collect. We also reviewed some of the studies that the land trusts and conservation groups did in 2018 and most recently in 23 with the University of Maine. We could talk more about that at some point, but the reasons for the property tax hikes, which I've never really addressed with the town. I've always just kind of sidestepped it till I get more data, more talking points. And, we had a town-wide reassessment, which was 30 years overdue. So you can look at it 2 ways. There were a lot of people that didn't pay their share for 30 years, and then there was a number of people that did. So that was long overdue, and it just happens to come on the heels of a real estate boom here and record low borrowing rates, which is really the perfect storm for a statewide valuation based on 91 miles of shoreline, crazy high valuations of homes, and then we just had a state mandated property reevaluation. So those are the reasons, and then you try to say, okay, well, how do we contain costs? How do we spend less? How do we support those that are most vulnerable? And that's where my heart goes, my mind goes, is we have people that have to make a decision between medication, food, heat, or a property tax bill. So that's why we formed it, that's where we're at. What we found, and it doesn't land squarely on the conservation groups, but it is a substantial amount of money, somewhere north of 400 grand a year is deferred from the land trust and the conservation groups and state-owned ground to the property owners in this town. 400 grand. That's just rough estimates. The counter argument is, well, long-term, there's a big benefit to the region to having conservation ground, parks. I would say yes, there's enrichment with that, but at what cost and who's bearing that cost? And a lot of the data that they collected, they referenced towns that are far more affluent than we are. So it's kind of a false equivalency, in my opinion, but you know, we could discuss data at another time. So again, it doesn't lie squarely on them. I mean, another kind of elephant in the room is tree growth. How many people in this town have their properties under tree growth? Certainly it's not at the tax break that the conservation groups have, but it is still something that flies under the radar. No one ever really considers that, me being one of them. You know, we could look into that more too, but I also feel like it's not nearly having the impact that the land trust and the conservation groups is having. So then you get to, okay, what action or what can we do about it? Well, Augusta is not going to change anything about this program. It's statewide legislation. The entire coast is burdened with it. There has been delegations and legislators that have attempted to get an audience in Augusta to no avail. None. Just, they won't even hear you. I've spoke with Miriam Moore, same thing. We're going to work with her a little bit more and see if we can't get a delegation. Carol and I talked about it, and try to get an audience in Augusta and see if we can't get some relief. Because again, I can shoulder that burden, but I know there's a great number of people that can't. And that's the onus or the motivation for me, is just trying to find ways where we're not so heavily burdened with property tax on top of sales tax, income tax, registration, and just never ends.
I spoke to her again last week and told her the idea that we had spoken about.
Yeah.
Where we take the whole problem on a statewide level.
Yeah.
And that we take all of the open space land and we divide it amongst all of the taxpayers in the state of Maine. Because if
Yeah.
it's a state regulation,
Yeah.
then it should be a statewide tax for
Yeah.
everyone.
I
And
think
she
it's brilliant.
said that's really an interesting idea. So that's all I got out of her.
Well, no, I mean,
didn't know.
that's I want to talk to you about that because you've mentioned that, and I think it's brilliant. It's an action item that I actually feel we can execute. We just need to meet with other municipalities and really leverage our legislators. But I think it's brilliant, and we should be sharing the load.
Yep.
You know,
They all profit. They come to us, we're on the cul-de-sac, the end of the road here, and they go to West Quaddy Head, and they all go back, they come up with 95 corridor, and they have to stop, they have to stop and eat, and stop and sleep, and stop, but they're all coming, all the people from Bar Harbor, they're all coming up here, and it needs to be, if they want state park, even the state land, they want state land and all of the parks, they need to be, we're the vacation state.
yeah,
And so all of the people that live here benefit from open land.
correct. Yep.
And all of the people should be paying their fair share of the open land, not 1,351 people that live in Quebec.
Right. No, I mean, and not only
And all the other
not only the tax burden, but resource utilization. And I've said this a couple times. I mean, I love the parks. I love the idea.
Yes.
I'm pro, green tourism.
It shouldn't be
ecotourism. I
local.
really am. But just the end of Straight Bay Road, there's 5 parks within a half a mile of road. Who's maintaining those roads? Me.
So it-
You.
it
We're
was-
all maintaining the
it-
parks roads.
It's gonna be municipal tax, school tax, and then it's gonna be open space tax.
Yeah.
They'll move to Maine and they need to pay for it.
Yeah.
And it would be such I don't know how it would come out with us because Southern Maine, I don't know how
Yeah.
envision, hopefully it works.
They come here too.
What we found in our research was that Southern Maine is not nearly as opposed to this as we are.
They've got
Because they-
population and
They got the
have
money to
funds.
pay for it.
Thank you. They also have restaurants, they have things that will counterbalance, that will pay off in taxes. We have not got there yet.
100%.
We are not there.
100%.
Yes, and I think they need to pay their fair
Michael.
share.
Is there some action this board can take to support that, sharing it statewide?
Well, we just,
Yes,
yep,
we,
Okay,
we're,
I mean,
I'm
do you need to
working
make a formal
on
letter
the,
to hand off to somebody else and say, we like this?
I've been going to meetings where I've been meeting all the different, communities. I've been going all through Washington County, all, everywhere from Danforth to Cherryfield to Harrington,
Stu Ben, I
to
mean,
talk to all
Vinyl
of the different
Haven.
people about the leaders in the community
Yeah.
to gather a delegation to go.
And I spoke with a couple of town managers that are in the same boat. I mean, there was one town that I spoke to that even has the state paying their property tax on on the state-owned ground.
Wow, that's a
Vinyl
novel
Haven.
idea.
Vinyl Haven, though, that's an excellent
You
idea.
believe
So
that?
is there any community that would get hurt with, increase in taxes?
Well, that's something you're gonna have to do the numbers. You'd have to, I literally,
I don't think so, I think mostly everybody's gonna get
seems like
it'll even out.
it should even out.
Lower,
It should,
lower.
should even out.
So
Mathematical
so basically, we
equation.
just came to action items, and my mind keeps thinking, you know, all roads lead to Augusta, which we've talked about, but we're hamstrung at this point in Augusta. So we have to act locally, and we've been working in collaboration with some of the other committees, the planning board, trying to find different ways to drive some revenue to help support those people that are at most risk. I did want to mention though too, we considered what some other towns had, at least had been rumored, was an assessment review board, which was, if I'm going to be paying your property taxes, I want to have a say in what you buy and how much you buy of it. I haven't found anything that says that's constitutional or legal. So it was a dead end. I thought it was a great idea, but we didn't really go anywhere with it. So,
No.
but I wanted to mention it because someone in this state is using that, and I don't know how they're getting around it.
Right.
But, you know, I'm right there with them though. It's like, hey, am I gonna pay your bill? I should have a say. But,
Right.
Dan,
yes, sir.
this is a very commendable effort that you're putting forward. Is it going to result in a written report?
I can give you my notes if you'd like.
You're not gonna make a formal written report with signatures on it?
For what?
I think we should.
For what?
We can. I mean, it was an ad hoc subcommittee. I mean, it was more just doing some due diligence and finding out where taxes are, how we can offset that.
Can we
and-
give,
We had an ad
John-
hoc subcommittee a few years ago that looked into reopening the high school, and they produced a very good written
well,
report.
we have a, this is fine for the 4 weeks. Let's give this to John.
Sure.
So this is what you wrote up.
Is this a status report, or is this the
This
final?
This is final, we're done.
That's it.
Yeah, we
We're
have 4
done.
meetings. I'm not about having meetings to have a meeting. So,
Need a committee that got something done.
Yeah.
Potent.
This doesn't have a signature on it.
I can sign it.
You said, Carolyn, you were talking to other coastal towns or
Yep.
Yes.
communities. Have any of you, are you thinking about forming one
Yes.
for our area?
Yeah.
Yes, for, well, all
That's
of
one of our action
all of
items.
Washington County.
We met about, what, 5 years ago with some of the other towns. And every month when I go to Marion, or every 2 months when I go up to the Marion meeting, it's the topic. Is the taxes and the nonprofits. We talk about it constantly. and
So
that's-
you know what's on everybody's mind.
Yeah, that's Eastport, that's Perry, Pembroke,
It's the
Yeah.
whole coast.
everywhere. We're getting killed, Whiting.
Well, again, my mind is like, I don't want to fault just one group because it's not. It's a state issue.
No, and you're right.
You know, and it's the brilliant minds in Augusta that thought this was a great idea to pass this on to the individuals.
So we could be a vacation land.
Yeah,
That's our pitch.
you know, the other thing here in Lubec, I think 2/3 of our budget goes to the school. That's worth mentioning as well. I think that's 1.6 million or more. So yeah, just worth mentioning, you know, that's where a big proportion of our property tax.
How much was that, Wanda?
Well, it is going up, I can't remember how much, but it's going up so much.
Yeah,
I thought it was
It's the
over
biggest
2.
item on
Oh,
the budget.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
into the.
Well, the draft budget right now shows a bottom line of $3 million. And that includes state subsidies.
Gina?
As John says, the school budget in the preliminary is about 3 million and, almost $750,000 we're paying to ship the kids out of school,
wow.
to high school and other community.
if not
So
more.
if we, it would be worth, if we that center to look into maybe opening the school again, with distance learning and stuff compared to, because it's not that the tuition's not gonna go down, it's gonna keep going up.
Oh, I know this. We had that ad hoc committee, as John mentioned, and they did a very sophisticated report on it a few years ago. I think they came to the conclusion that
It costs more money to open up a new school.
There's
to
been
need
a
a
lot of
superintendent.
infrastructure
Yeah.
redone down to the school, to, in the high school end, the heating, the roofing. I think it should be really something the taxpayers ought to know about.
I brought it up at the school board meeting that I think that the townspeople, and when I say townspeople, taxpayers that votes on the budgets for the municipal government and the school budget is in the dark about what we are paying to tuition our high school kids out of Lubec, because they was led to believe that closing our high school was going to save them in taxes. That is wrong.
There's a basic
That
misunderstanding
is
about how it
wrong,
goes.
and it is climbing
Yeah.
more and more each year,
Yeah.
faster than what it is. We are paying $750,000 to $1 million to educate 34 kids.
That's right.
We are paying $2 million, just over $2 million, to educate 95 to 100 in this building down here.
What do we spend per capita per child, do you know?
I looked at the state data.
It varies.
We led the state, Washington County, and then I forget, Lubec was pretty high.
20,000.
I think it was close to 20.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been pointed out repeatedly by not only the current, but by the previous superintendent, that small schools, regardless of where, have a higher cost per student
Oh,
than do the
Absolutely.
big
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense.
It's a matter,
And we're paying for just tuition,
Yeah.
approximately $18,000 per student for the high school.
matter of fact, last night I learned that Charlotte voted to close their school.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
my
Oh,
voted,
excellent,
they voted to close their school.
excellent.
The
Why
other
is that
day.
excellent?
They have like about a handful of kids.
They're 15.
Yeah, and they're
That's gonna
spending
be ungodly
exorbitant
So where are they
amounts.
going?
They'll probably go to
He
Edmonds
really
or
didn't say.
somewhere.
He said, some are gonna go here, some are gonna go there,
Yeah,
and it was,
Well, they can tuition them wherever they want.
yeah.
they're gonna go different.
But the thing is, God, we're gonna get on this
I
topic.
know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we probably
But
have
I
two
mean,
executive
a couple
sessions
school
to
board
go.
members are here, it's like,
Okay,
Wrong one.
someday,
go ahead, Warren.
Dickie.
I tell you one thing that's important with this whole equation. Parents, like WA, like when we did that, had that ad hoc, they offer 78 different curriculums
Yes.
for kids, and that's what parents are looking at.
That's right.
That's what they're looking at.
Choices, you have to give them choices.
Yeah, and that's the sad
Opportunities.
thing, we just cannot do it down
You
here,
have to-
unless we do what Gina says and have one, long distance.
Yeah,
Regional.
which is no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
I have some action items I want to mention.
Oh, go right
Yeah.
ahead.
Not just finding problems, but actual
Oh.
action items.
Okay.
So, we talked about the delegation to Augusta. We are working in collaboration with the planning board and a couple of the other committees. We did make some recommendations unofficially, or at least discuss the idea of proposing building permits based per square foot, no longer just an arbitrary nominal amount, but actually offsetting the resource utilization through
Helping to pay for the
yeah,
code
per square
enforcement
foot,
officer.
which is, I think, a great idea.
Mhm.
The other issue that we've talked about is the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes. And we need to write a couple pointed letters requesting some resource support from some of these land trust and conservation groups for not just infrastructure, but maybe a shuttle that we talked about, a 16 bus shuttle, a 16 seat shuttle. We talked about a walking path or loop as another project that they could help fund. And then we also talked about a possible children's ocean museum or tank as not only an attraction, but an enrichment that they could also help fund. So the other thing that we did talk about was another way to raise some funds locally was that annual lodging permit fee.
Or Airbnb.
For lodging, for Airbnb, hotels, motels, not just the Airbnbs, and, obviously, it's a board decision, but I'd recommend it, I think it's another way to drive some local revenue to put back into, you know, whatever, fuel program, or maybe even bolster our own local homestead exemption program, but I think it needs further discussion.
I think Alex is working on that.
Yeah, Alex has been great,
Yeah.
I know you've talked to him, I've talked to him,
Who-
and Carol
who
has.
is?
Alex.
Henry.
Oh, Alex,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, he's
yes.
been very receptive and he jumped on it
Yes.
as well, so again, I think it's just collaboration and just trying to be creative.
And I wanna
act
point out,
locally.
sorry again,
Go ahead.
that two of the people that are kinda bringing this up have Airbnb,
Right,
Yep.
so it's not like,
so,
yes.
right. It's their own.
I think the suggestion was $100 a year, something like that.
Well, and again, I
And-
think it's something the board should discuss,
And
you know.
just gonna put a little, it should be in a fund designated for something that will help the taxpayer.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
If I can add just a detail here, we frequently travel in these Airbnbs in those faraway places. And to have an occupancy tax or whatever you wanna call it, it's just standard practice.
Yeah.
It's no big
Right.
deal.
Well, and to follow up on that, John, the state taxes us 9% per occupant,
Hmm.
per stay. We don't see a dime of that.
No.
Well, how the money goes is-
I called the Maine State Treasurer, they laughed at me.
I'm just thinking
They're
in
like, oh,
terms
that
of
goes
the
into the
person,
general fund, I'm like, what?
for the person paying it, it's not a big deal,
No, and it just gets passed on to the guests.
to wherever it goes.
Yeah, but I do think it's, again, I don't like the idea of another tax or another fee, but we have to get creative to support those that are at greatest risk here. And that's where my mind goes, is like, okay, what else can we do? You know, yeah, we're gonna be this ecotourism hub, well then let's capitalize where we can without being exploitive, but at the same time, I feel like it's another creative way to help support those that need it.
I agree.
We have at least over 60 Airbnbs in that,
At least.
82 right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's $8,200 right there.
Well, and again, I think maybe we create
Figure out
another
what to do with
subcommittee
that.
for that, just
That's annual.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I think, well, I guess Craig on the group suggested a fund for people who are just some kind of application so that they need help with their taxes. That money would be earmarked for some, I can only give so much, and rather than to go through the whole process of having to lose their house,
Mhm.
that would be nice to have a fund to help people. I mean, there's gonna be requirements.
Yeah.
Don't ask me
And I
what
mean,
they are, but,
the way it works
and
now
common
is
whatever.
it's up to the general public to help each other out. And if you had a fund, then that wouldn't have to happen.
So those would be the two things I'd like to follow
I
up.
think I think the Airbnbs would all be behind
Yeah.
that, to help the local people. I think it's a good idea.
So
At one
we-
time, we had people come here and ask for an abatement for taxes and that kind of thing, and talked about how hard it was. I remember what we tried to do at that time was to look at this person and see if they were able to work. And some of them really didn't know how to work. They didn't know what would be available to them. I remember telling one guy, who I happen to know, was an excellent boat maker. He made boats. He was excellent at it. I said, why don't you bother and teach somebody to make a boat? And he didn't think about it. You know, come on, that's gonna get you money. People need to believe in themselves. And perhaps it goes back to high school, you know, that you need a route to adulthood that doesn't always take you through Harvard.
Especially not now.
Well, and LCOC has some good ideas.
Yes, I
Spoke
know.
with Jennifer a couple
Yes.
times, and, you know, I'm a big proponent of adult learning and
Well,
training in
there's
different,
Callis is
Me
a great
too, yeah.
technical high school right now.
so I think we just stay on that
And
path.
Eastport's going to it, and there's a bus going up to that. I
So
happen to,
the three action items I'd like us to follow up on are the delegation and collaboration with other municipalities to Augusta, that'd be the first. Second is, direct pilot letters to the land trust and conservation groups asking for support. And then the third would be, digging in a little bit more on the annual lodging permit and refining that and defining it. Those would be the three.
okay. And what's that, you can do that on the select board level, right?
Yes.
So you are officially closed as an ad
That's
hoc
it.
committee. Well, okay.
Well, huh?
That was a good job.
Oh,
Great job.
Thank you. How about public comment?
How about committee update?
After, oh yeah, committee updates.
Good evening, everyone.
And Mike.
I'm pleased to announce that the town now has a new shellfish management plan that had been worked on for 5 months by the Shellfish Committee, and it has been given to the state, and it has now been approved and accepted by the state, and you have a copy in the town clerk's possession. So we're moving forward with the goals of the shellfish management plan. And again, the meetings are open to the public or anyone that has an interest in this. And they're the first Monday of each month at 6 o'clock in this room. Thank you for your support.
No, thank you for all your work. I have to ask, do you actually fish, Michael?
No, I don't,
So you're just a strong
I try,
advocate?
I'm helping where I can.
I love it.
I'm not a digger, so
Love
I,
My dad was a digger. Yeah.
You've always helped them, Mike, and
Yeah.
that's great.
well,
You've always been there.
it was funny, when I talked to Vicky this morning, it was like, here we are worrying about accesses being closed, and then the road got blocked off. And then I had said, no, I thought it was closed, and when I checked the map, it was like, oh, no, this is, yeah, this,
Well, and I think it always just goes back to that they've always known historically that the access has been not there this time of year.
yeah, exactly, and common sense prevails. Like I said, I know that if they really want to go dig, they'll find a safer spot. It's not
But like I
worth
say,
risking
you
a
know,
vehicle.
the climate's changing and
Yep.
we gotta deal with it.
You get it tomorrow.
Exactly.
That was amazing. They submitted the shellfish management. Heidi Lake was there and the water quality guy was there, and I could not believe the turnaround. They submitted it, and 2 days later, we got an official letter from Marine Resources that they'd accepted it. And the state is trying to take our best clam flats. We have the best, or one of the best in the whole country, in the whole state.
So our mapping,
And if
That-
we don't do this, we
Right.
lose our clams.
right, our mapping project has already identified 41
Clam flats.
easily identifiable clam flats, and some of them are actually broke down into subsections that have local names and traditional names, but we're still mapping that, and hopefully it will produce a data file that has that inventory, or that resource inventory readily available. And then the next step then is working on accesses to the flats that we used to be able to, a short walk or a drive.
Thank you.
But that's in the
I wanted to
future.
regress a minute. Did you want a motion by the select board to go through, to work on these 3 action items?
If needed.
I'll make a
Well, I think
motion.
Yeah.
it would be nice to have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
So the motion is to do these 3 things. A delegation to Augusta, a pilot, and a lodging permit. So, Rachel, did you want to second that?
Sure, sir. Yeah.
Because I was on the committee, so I didn't know if I should second it. All in favor? Okay. Any other committee updates?
Yeah.
Yes,
Don't all answer at once.
You go ahead, you were awful quick.
thank you so much.
I'll go after.
Thank you so much. Well, I went to the Washington County Council of Governments meeting this week, which I haven't been in ages because it hasn't been meeting.
Mhm.
And I want you to know that it's now taken over by Sunrise County.
Right.
And Jen Peters is talking about trying to get it revved up again. Betsy Fitzgerald was there. They are actively looking for a new director because Judy East has left. But one of the things that a couple of things we talked about is that they are very low on funds now because our towns have not been paying dues. I know that we haven't because we
They're
don't
not
have
doing
meetings.
anything.
Yeah, that's right. So why should we pay what we're not doing?
Okay,
So
so-
we're gonna send them money.
This is not NATO, but we have not.
That's right. You're okay. And I'll give Russia
And where do you stand?
permission.
That's been in the news, I'm happy to say.
I try not to talk about it. Okay, so, if all the money comes in that's due, they will be $28,000 ahead, but right now they're hurting. We are going to go on some new bylaws and a new website, and hopefully there will be some more resources for our code enforcement man, there are some, workshops that he will need to go to.
Excellent.
Thought you'd like that, yes.
Yes, I will.
Anyway, and
So
there's,
they're revamping, but they haven't got a director, so
they don't have a director.
So
They-
maybe we can put their membership fee in our next budget if they
I
get
think it would
if
be
they
a
get
good
it
idea,
organized.
yeah, I mean,
No, I'm not applying.
the sooner they get busy, the better it will be for all of us.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I'm
and
glad you go to those meetings.
I
It's a
do,
lot.
I like them, I think there's a lot happening there.
Yes. Okay, anything else? We're
Yeah,
gonna go-
we had a meeting last night at Marion
Oh, what happened?
about going up on rates. We decided we're gonna go up to 7 cents. And
From 6 cents.
from 6 cents, yes, and we had a meeting last night. And
Effective when?
what we decided to do is we couldn't take the hit until July. I mean, that's months away. So we did a 50-50. We decided April 1st, we'd go up. That kind of splits the,
That gives a month or two for you to get prepared for.
it gives the towns, time to prepare, and we're splitting it down the middle.
Gotcha. So you're taking the months into August and dividing in half and going with April.
Well,
Something like that.
you know, it's just gonna be, instead of doing it now and hitting the towns in 6 months, we decided we'd go 3 and 3. We'd take the hit.
And that's 7 cents per what?
Per pound,
Okay.
and nobody's getting, rich at that, that's for sure.
No.
And Mike knows, he's on the
It's not a
board.
business, it's a service to the residents of
Yeah.
Washington County.
And I appreciate this board supporting that. I did bring that up, and everybody was in favor for doing it. I mean, it had to be done, so.
Well,
And it's still 3 to 5 cents cheaper than anywhere else.
oh, that's good then. Well, if there isn't any other public comment, oh, Wanda.
Well, you guys been talking about this a lot tonight, like for the planners. In one place in South Quebec, the town owns that property. And there's a lot of planners that drive right onto the beach there. But the beach grass is covering, it's invading the road down there. And in fact, that whole landscape down there has changed really drastically, but it just keeps, the road's like not very wide, and it's because of the grass, and I know it's a DEP issue, but that's a town right away, right there, and if they can look into
Is
that.
there anything we can do on Vicky? Who does that?
Where is that?
On the S curve.
No.
The road that goes in, Wanda?
Who's in charge of fixing the grassy area?
That would, I don't know, but
I
that's
think it's
something.
the other way around, I think we're invading in the grassy area.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's a town,
That's a town.
Yeah, it is, I was making a joke, Wanda.
No,
It is.
you know why I say that, because I go to that beach a lot.
Yep.
And our planners, they're squeezing them, and they need to have that.
I don't know what it would be as far as, I know
Why don't we ask Maine
I'm not putting our equipment down there.
Why
I'll
don't
tell you.
we ask Maine Coast Heritage Trust to take a look at it? They've been very helpful with beach access before. And they have the environmental people on board to help us with that,
Yeah,
to see if
So
they
you're
can fix it.
suggesting to make it bigger?
Well,
Just
get
not
back
how
what
it
they
was.
had. Just bring back what they had. In fact, with all these high tides that we've had these last few years, it's created a little stream that
I
goes
noticed
into
that,
the, and that never used to be there.
Along that line, Wanda, and I wasn't sure when to bring this up, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but, someone talked to me about the Stockford Park down here, that with the storms, there's some erosion
Yeah.
gradually happening, and they were concerned about the sculpture. And if it keeps coming, it'll damage that, or it'll
Oh, yes,
jeopardize
you
it,
have no
compromise
doubt.
the
It'll
sculpture.
make really good stabilizing rock laying down.
Hopefully. But
Yes, there we go.
who's
We
in
got the
charge
wrong-
of that? Who takes care of that?
Yeah, who's in charge of Stockford Park? Town?
Well, see, I remember that Reverend Stockford
Stockford.
was here promoting the park and doing all kinds of stuff to help it,
No, that wasn't Reverend
was his
Stock.
son.
That was
the
David.
son.
Yeah.
Son,
Okay.
right.
And then I think he had a breakdown or something, he's not on the scene.
So
His
don't
wife
we have
is still
anything in our
here.
Parks and Recreation?
The town takes
ordinance
care of
or
that.
stuff
Yeah.
like
But that's
that?
not something, we don't
Yeah.
really have,
That would be us,
We
for all
have,
the erosion
You have
for
public
91
works.
miles.
yeah.
I know there's something to do with the parks part of it, because we
Right.
actually do oversee that.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, you do.
Right.
Well, you
There's
know
a small
what
I
we're
think we
doing.
should be prepared for that to happen more frequently if we keep getting storms like we've had this year.
Well, I do know there's a lot of damage there that
Yeah.
you can't see from the parking lot. You have to be down on the beach
Yeah.
to
Sure.
see that.
There's all
Yeah.
kinds of
Now, to
damage
get
with
back to
storm.
this Sulphur thing, where that's, right now a DOT road, they don't have the say of that?
Mm,
They did the riprap up there. the
I'm
state
talking
did.
about the entrance there to.
Right.
Exactly,
Beach
so
there.
that's kind of what I'm saying, they do have to say, because they did all the riprap
Right.
up along there. So, I believe that is.
Might I suggest bags and bags of pulverized glass? Please. I am determined to get rid of those.
I'm sure
things.
they'd be interested in
Tires are
hearing from
easy.
you. right up
I
there
have
in Pembroke.
suggested it many times.
You like that done in the
We
past?
are gonna find something to do with that glass. We are, that's
So if
the
there's
last
a
thing
bad
you do.
erosion issue that's gonna get worse, then that parking spot where you drive down onto the flats there,
Yeah.
it'll probably get impassable. It'll get eaten away by the erosion, so
Yes.
eventually something will have to be done. If you wanna wait, and the state steps up and says, well, that's our road, and it is.
Yes.
Well, it's.
I know last year, if you guys
Yeah, I
remember
think that
last
they
year
own the
down
road,
here on
not
this
the
end,
access to the beach. We
I
own that.
fixed, when I fixed the turnaround down here, where the oil tanks used to be, I was told I couldn't touch that down on the beach, that the entrance goes to the beach.
They own 35 feet off of center line.
35 feet
what the
on
state
South
regulates.
Newburgh Road,
Is what the-
35 feet.
That's what the
Okay,
state
what's the measure?
regulates, 35.
35 feet off the center line.
Access right there.
Yep.
Go right
So
down
that
there.
would cover.
Yep.
Okay.
I had to put the signs there when the vehicles
We
started
have
getting
two
submerged. I
different
had to
executive
put
sessions that I
signs
think
up
are really
warning
important.
people about that, but we couldn't get down on the beach.
Oh, yes.
Well, you know, Vicky, to the right, when you used to park on the right side, and now you'd be lucky to get a truck down there through there off.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That is really important, so
Yeah.
I'll have to go look at it.
Yeah.
But I would say you're right, the road is the road, and then after the 35 feet, it's us. But we actually have 2 executive sessions to go into tonight, so we're going to, if there's.
Carol's kicking you out, everybody.
The first one is for MRSA 405-6A personnel matters. The second one is MRSA 405-6E legal matters.
We're gonna kill that
Don't
anyway, the
forget to
campfire.
go to the visioning session tomorrow
I
night.
thought you were switching them around.
Oh,
Yeah, we will.
I
Put that around.
forgot